Good morning. I'm Chief Deputy Brian Henderson. We also have our partners here from the various agencies that represent the Volusia Bureau of Investigation. And this morning we're here to announce the arrest of 10 individuals who are responsible for a drug trafficking organization that is operating or was operating in the Central Florida area. The Volusia Bureau of Investigation's mission is to identify, disrupt, or dismantle drug trafficking organizations that operate in our area of responsibility. And in this case, they did just that. Christina Guess, we are alleging that she is the ringleader of what we term the Guess organization. And throughout her time operating this organization, we believe that they trafficked up to 24 pounds of methamphetamine within a 1-year period. Our VBI agents were successful in infiltrating this organization through surveillance and ultimately through electronic surveillance, and identified 9 other members to include her source of supply that are responsible for bringing methamphetamine into Volusia County. This is Christina Guess. She's a former prison guard. She worked for the state of Florida for 12 years. We investigated her a few years ago as well for trafficking meth and sent her to prison, and we intend to send her back. Another individual that we had identified in this investigation is a female by the name of Andrea Dunmeyer. In December of last year, we went to her house where her infant child was found deceased. We began an investigation into that matter and determined that that child died as a result of methamphetamine toxicology. We're not sure exactly how that occurred. Our homicide detectives are continuing that investigation, and we're working with the state attorney's office to hold her accountable for that. We don't believe that it was an intentional act, but likely through neglect. So this organization obviously has some violence tied into it, and some of the children that were involved in some of these houses, we've removed them with the help of DCF. I do want to thank the Ocala Police Department. One of the pieces to this was when we followed Christina Guess to Ocala, we identified her source of supply, Mr. Reshard Campbell. When we left that area, Ocala PD helped us out and executed a search warrant at that location, and they were able to recover a large amount of narcotics from that location as well. So I'd like to invite Chief Umberger up here for a couple comments.
Good morning. I think as you just heard from Chief Henderson, this is an effort that involved many police agencies and sheriff's departments, and under the scope of VBI. On behalf of the city of DeLand and the DeLand Police Department, I want to commend them for their hard work, their efforts. As you realize, drug traffickers, they don't stay in certain boundaries. They cross counties, they cross state lines, and we've seen time and time again that these task force operations, they really work. Local law enforcement, county law enforcement, state law enforcement, and federal agents work together to dismantle these organizations, and it really impacts the communities. You know, the city of DeLand, there were many people that were arrested that were involved, that live in the city of DeLand. So we have people that participate on these task forces at the city of DeLand, as does Ormond Beach Police Department. I think New Smyrna Beach Police Department does as well. And they partner and work every day with our sheriff's departments and state law enforcement and federal law enforcement to dismantle these organizations. So this is just a fine example of teamwork, and it really makes a difference in our communities.
The Attorney General's Office, the statewide prosecution, is going to prosecute this case, and that generally occurs when you have multi-jurisdictional issues where it doesn't happen just in the 7th Circuit. So just to hammer home the local impact here, year to date, we've had 174 overdose deaths in Volusia County. We've had 863 non-fatal overdoses. So just to paint that picture as to what type of havoc this drug, along with fentanyl and others, are causing in our community, I think you'd hear from any police chief in this county would tell you that our property crimes are generally driven by the drug trade. So people who are out breaking into houses, into cars, most of the time they're doing so to support their habit. I talked about the 24 pounds of meth that we believe this organization is responsible for distributing here in Central Florida. Think of it as that's 24 times 2 or 3. That 24 pounds, when it gets to the street level, is being diluted or cut multiple times over. So that could be upwards of 80 to 100 pounds of drugs that are being distributed throughout our community. So again, I want to commend the Volusia Bureau of Investigation, the federal government for partnering with us in this investigation. I do believe this made a significant impact in our community, and I'm proud of the work that they did. And we'll take any questions.
What's the street value of the 24 pounds of meth that was distributed over the past year there?
Well, so just on the 24 pounds itself, it's $50,000 or $60,000. But again, when you start cutting that meth up multiple times over, it could jump up to over $100,000 to $200,000, depending on how many times it's cut or stepped on before it gets to the street level.
Brian, can you talk a little bit about this queen pin as opposed to kingpin? So she had been a corrections officer somewhere in Florida. Do you know where?
I don't know where she worked in the prison system. She worked there for 12 years. She was decertified in 2013 by the Criminal Justice Standards Training Commission, and we understand that it was as a result of perjury and an unprofessional relationship. She got on our radar back in 2019. We did a case on her and sent her to prison for a couple years for distributing methamphetamine, and I mean, she's right back out doing it again.
In the DeLand area,
And
where she was living.
Correct. You know, it's sad. You think about, we know about the child who died as a result of the meth, but what we don't know about, that's the sad part. You know, this drug is extremely addictive. It ravages families. It tears families apart. Children are ultimately the ones that suffer from this because they're going to go without while their parents are out trying to feed their drug habit. So it's heartbreaking.
And can you talk a little bit more about the child? Again, no one's been charged with homicide in relation to this child's death, correct?
Not yet. We do believe that she is the sole person responsible through neglect. Yeah. So how that occurred, you know, we're not sure exactly how it got into the baby's system, but you know, ultimately that parent's responsible for the care of that child, and that had occurred in this situation. So we're going to hold someone accountable for it. We're working with the state attorney's office right now to come up with the appropriate charges.
When did this happen, the baby's death?
December
Of this past year.
this past year.
And it wasn't it wasn't the corrections officer, it was another female involved.
Andrea Dunmar.
At DC, when you mentioned that this drug habit sometimes include violence in it, do you, besides the meth system found in that child, was that child a victim of violence?
Not that we know of. You know, that house we'd been to before, to talk about violence, a year prior to that, we were there trying to apprehend a robbery suspect who barricaded himself in the house, and we had to use our SWAT team to get him out of that residence. And there were kids present when that happened. So, you know, anytime you have drugs out there, you have money involved, there's violence. You know, whether it's reported or unreported, firearms go hand in hand with drugs. We see it every day when our deputies are out there and police officers are out there, you know, being proactive in the streets, trying to get drugs and guns off the street. Drug dealers carry guns, and they don't carry them for show. They carry them for a reason.
By dismantling this operation, how significant, I mean, do you think it was the main meth operation in our area?
No. In fact, the sheriff and I just traveled to the southern border last month with some other sheriffs. We had a firsthand account of what is going on or what's not going on the southern border, and the amount of drugs that are being seized coming across that border, particularly meth and fentanyl, is absolutely just, it's insane to see. So we know that there are many other organizations just like this and or larger. We know a lot of who they are, and the men and women who combine together, like Chief Umberger said, in our task force as a team. This is their mission. This is their passion. They love doing this type of work, and I assure you that if you're out there trafficking drugs in our communities, it's only a matter of time before we're kicking in your front door and you're going to jail.
DC, when you say they distributed drugs of Central Florida, are we talking about all over Central Florida, or are there specific counties where they infiltrate?
all over Central Florida. Meth has no home base. This is, the meth that we seized in this operation, this is all attributed to coming from the southern border, coming from Mexico. This is pure methamphetamine. You would go back in time to the mid-2000s where, a lot of you were here when we were dealing with the guys and girls that were making meth in their bathrooms. We don't see that anymore, just to drive that home. And the reason behind that is that the meth that's coming from Mexico is so pure and it's so cheap that there's no reason to take that risk to make methamphetamine in your bathroom or in your home and put yourself in that danger. And on top of it, it's poor quality. It's hard to redistribute and make a profit off it. So the amount of meth that we see coming from Mexico, it's flooding our communities. And again, we're going to be out there every day, every night, identifying those who think that it's a good idea to sell this poison to ruin families, and we're going to hold them accountable.
And was the female suspect, the queen pin of all of this, her distributor was allegedly in Ocala?
Yes.
Or her supplier?
Her source of supply, he was based in Ocala. We had a great working relationship. We identified him pretty early on in our investigation, and the strike force over in that area was more than willing to help us out. And he's been arrested. He has, and he will be also prosecuted by the statewide prosecutor.
Could you talk a little bit about the FBI's involvement in the operation?
Absolutely. So the FBI is part of our HIDA initiative, which is the high-intensity drug trafficking area. They've been a great partner with us for many years. They supply resources and intelligence to our investigations as we do for some of their investigations, and it's truly just a good team environment with them.
Could you put a little better perspective on this? You mentioned 100 pounds when this is all cut and distributed, but if I'm a buyer, how much am I buying and what am I paying for?
So you're seeing people at the street level buy, a gram or less of meth, and that could be anywhere from, $30 to $60 depending on what that person believes the quality of that meth is. Again, this is the upper level part of this organization, so they're dealing in wholesale. There's multiple layers beneath them that they too want to turn a profit, so they're going to have to dilute that drug in order to make the money, make it worthwhile for them as well.
Did she say anything when she was arrested? Was she cooperating?
I don't know the answer to that. And quite honestly, even if she does cooperate, I don't really care. Whatever information she has, she belongs back in prison. She worked at the prison. She wants to go back. We're going to send her back.
Was she on probation after getting out of prison? You guys said you sent her in prison in 2019 and now she's released. Was she in probation? Is that how you guys kept tabs on her?
I can tell you that's not how we got back onto her as far as being a distributor. We have people that tell us things. Our detectives are very good at what they do. She got back on our radar, and that was a bad move on her part. As far as her being on probation, I'm not sure if she just did straight prison time or if she had any probation.
The bulk of the ring was operating in DeLand, right? But there were some people outside that area.
They were, but their stretch in terms of where they were selling to, you have a whole nother layer of this. And let me add that we intend to arrest more people. There are other people out there. When you see this, when you're watching the news tonight, and you see some of your friends that are being pictured on here, there's a great chance we're going to be coming to knock on your door to find out where you want to be in this, because this isn't over. We expect to arrest more people. And some of those people we know were not in just Volusia County, all over the county, on the east side of the county as well, but in other counties around us. Guys, anything?
I would add, on the question about what's the impact of it, think about 24 pounds. How many hundreds of thousands of grams are in 24 pounds? So you're talking thousands of people.
Yeah.
I think conservatively that could have, that this was intercepted and we were able to stop thousands of people being able to purchase this in those very small quantities because it's such a potent drug. And as Chief said, we've lost 173 people.
174.
174 people, and how many overdoses. Our officers and the deputies are responding all the time to these overdoses. We're Narcanning people, and it's a direct result of this fentanyl and methamphetamine that we're seeing out there.
Is
So-
the meth being cut with fentanyl like we do with a lot of other?
Yeah, we have. In fact, we've now seen where pills that are purported to be something else, in fact, test positive for fentanyl. We've seen pills that are supposed to be something else test positive for meth. We've seized marijuana that has had fentanyl laced in it. We've seized marijuana that's had meth laced in it. In our area, the two biggest threats, fentanyl being the number one threat, with meth following closely behind it. The amount of seizures that we've had just in the sheriff's office over the past couple of years have tripled with meth, and that's the street level deputies doing car stops, seizing meth, large quantities of meth out of vehicles. Again, it just speaks to the amount of meth that is coming into our country and coming into our community, and it's not just in Volusia County; it's all around us. Flagler, Seminole, Orange, Polk, all over the place. Everyone is having the same issues that we're seeing. And again, if you're dealing this stuff, it's only a matter of time. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you.